I have so many questions about charts and no one to help me. If only there was a place I could go to learn which doesn't cost a fortune.
There is such a place. It's my Patreon. It's £7.50 a month and you get 2 live streams a week. Ask me anything you like about any chart that you want.
What about trading platforms?
Well, in the video description I've got a link for all the best ones and you can get up to 20% off all your trading fees for life.
Thanks CryptoClick, you the man bro.
Hello everybody, welcome back. Let's have a look at Bitcoin, but before we do that we're going to have a think about traditional markets. Boring, but it's true. So we on this channel, being I told you about the lows on traditional markets, so stocks, the absolute lows. Told everybody to buy, even though I'm not a financial advisor. I said, look, it's a big chance that we are going to move up from here. This is big chance we're going to do it. Everyone was like, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. We're moving all the way up to the top of this range here, this descending triangle, which is obviously a bearish formation, but that's where we're going, our destination. Now, I took some chips off the table before the FOMC meeting just because of the unpredictability of it. I'd made, roughly about 30% across the stocks and indexes, and I wanted to take some off the table. So I sold 50% with an eye to close the rest towards the top of this descending triangle, which is only a few percent away from where we are right now. Now, anyone who knows the triangle formation knows that it's generally a bearish formation, obviously, because there's resistance that's moving down each time, and that forces it to have lower highs, effectively making it a bearish formation. It's a consolidation, or a bear market, or a downtrend. It's a bearish formation. However, if we do break out of these, then we go for a little bit of a tear up, which is where we could maybe reach up to 15,000 on the Nasdaq. We're talking here. It's just an overview of stocks, really, tech stocks, the risk assets, basically. But we don't play triangles like that. Even though my entry point was the absolute low, I'm not prepared to wait and see if we move out of here. So I would play it safe, just and expect a rejection, and anything outside of that will be a bonus. And one of the other reasons, outside of just the descending triangle and the 200 exponential on the daily all being around this area, other than that, so if we look at the momentum on this, we do have bearish divergence on this latter part of the uptrend here. Now, it has cancelled out on this last drive, but it's reasonably extended. It still looks quite good, but yeah, you have to take it on face value, which is that this is a bearish formation approaching resistance, two resistances mainly of decent proportion, so expect a pullback on that one. We go over to our friend oil. Again, another thing that we called the downtrend on, and said, look, 120 looks like it's going to break down from here. People are going, you are absolutely wrong, and now look what we did, 25% down. Says, don't you understand about what's going on in the world? Says, yeah, I do. Well, don't you understand the structure of this chart? And it's going to come down. So it did, and it's come down. And 95 was the first target. Next target is 85, effectively $10 each time. 85, I think it's probably going to bottom around 75, but there is a chance that we come down to 65. And 65, believe it or not, is actually what I would consider to be a reasonably decent price that everybody is going to be happy with. The bulls and the bears will all get their fill. Historically, 65 is actually a decent area. So a rough tops over here, supports over here, tops and supports. You see the confluence to that area. So 65 is a chance that we do come down to 65. My area for bottoming around oil is 75. There's no reason to think that oil is going to move lower than that given the environment and the reason why it's trading so high. Again, I'm with the people that were calling for higher over here, apart from I wasn't calling for higher. I understand why they think it could go higher, but the chart didn't allow for that, and as a trader, from a TA perspective, it wanted to come down, and it has come down by 25%, and will probably come down lower, towards the year end, but it doesn't mean we don't get a bounce. So 95 has been broken, so we're looking for probably a bounce around 85-ish area, and it'd just be a bounce, but just as we called the everything bounce, which was a pullback on commodities, they'd all massively peaked, a rotation into stocks and indexes, which had bottomed, and now we're looking for the inverse of that, probably the inverse of that. So a bounce on energy and a pullback on stocks. And with that comes our friend Bitcoin, which is moving through association with stocks and Nasdaq and tech stocks, basically. We have to respect that. So let's think about Bitcoin on its own. So all of that I've said is all part of the everything bounce and the everything crash is what I was talking about. It's clickbait, but it's true. Let's have a think about what Bitcoin's doing on its own. So before we do that, just remember everything I've just said means that Bitcoin will most likely move through association with those markets. So there is a very good chance that we do get a pullback on Bitcoin as a result of it basically just following the larger, broader tech stocks, right? But if we were to focus on Bitcoin's chart itself, the weekly actually looks quite good. No positive cross on the histogram. There doesn't have to be. I mean, the last time we got a positive cross on the histogram was basically too late. Marked more or less the top. So we had nice divergence moving up over here on the weekly. The actual green, bullish cross is what the people like to think these things over. Actually marked the top. So we peaked over here as we went green. So is that the same thing that's going to happen here? It could be. It could be. But we are still showing bullish momentum until that moment that it happens. The one thing I would be concerned about, and we were watching this all the way, is the 10 exponential offering a resistance. Whoa, we'll keep that where it was. And the reason I say that is that it's not been a good friend of ours in this downtrend. So when we get below it and rejected from it, we get significant pullbacks. Big one there, and then we came above it and rejected from it here and here and here, and brought us all the way down to this low. So we came up to it here, so we should really expect it to be a resistance, but there's a chance that obviously it breaks, and if it breaks then we move up to the summer lows, last summer's lows, 28, 29, 30, and see where we go from there. So this is why I say that there is strength on the higher term time frames. It's just unfortunate that so far we haven't broken that 10 exponential. 3-day, nothing to be concerned of. Bullish momentum, bullish momentum, bullish momentum, money flow index, RSI, and the old MACD, but the 21 exponential being our resistance on the 3-day, coming in at effectively, we'll call it 24, but it's a little less than that, but more or less 24. So we do need to break and hold above 24 to maintain the price with the momentum on those higher term time frames. Now the daily is where things start to get a little bit I think this is why I think today is the day really where this moves, not just because traditional markets, but the nature of the Bitcoin chart. So we've seen a nice uptrend, and we saw the divergence and uptrend taking place until the breakout. We also had a cupping handle which was formed, and that's all been pretty good. We found ourselves getting resistance around this level, which is all fine, but now the RSI has come back down to this trend line. The trend line basically holding so far so good. But if this is why I think today is going to be the day. Like any minute really, we'll start to see either a move up, break out of the range to the upper side of the ranges, upper 20,000 zones, or we finally give up the game and break down from here. And you can see on the MACD the momentum is dwindling now, about to make a negative cross. It doesn't. It's not the end of the world, but it's not a good thing to see. It's a little bit more. I suppose the time frame for a daily for me is probably one of the more appropriate time frames to trade any charts with really, and for the moment, yeah, we're holding on the RSI. We're also above the 21 exponential, which is effectively the midway point. I expect the Bollinger Band to be around there too. Yeah, so the Bollinger Band's all around here, so 22,005, 22,007, all these kind of areas are being held above so far. So on its own chart and its own merit, everything's kind of matching, and you're ever so slightly in favor of a bounce from here, not just because of the trend line, but because of the Bollinger Band strategy. 65% more likely to maintain the area of the Bollinger Band to which you are in, so we're still to the upper side of the range, which means a bounce from here is probably more likely than a breakdown. But let's face it, it's indecisive, I would say. So even though that it's 65% more likely to maintain this area of the Bollinger Band, it's not the greatest odds. I always say this, it's all about balancing the odds. There's no such thing as going straight up, a definite going straight up to the moon, or a definite breakdown. There's no such thing in TA. You're just trying to narrow down the odds. And if you were given a 65% chance of surviving like a disease, you would probably not sleep that well at night. You'd be like, all right, okay, well, it's better than 10%, but I'm not particularly a fan of those odds, even though that they are in my favour. It's not great odds. So the odds are in the favour of the upside on this one on the daily, and again that goes with this uptrend on the RSI. But the odds they don't make you feel particularly comfortable. So I strongly feel like today is most likely going to be the day, given the RSI coming down for that retest now. Higher term time frame still unchanged, like, you know, it's no different to yesterday. The lower term time frames are expressing some kind of weaknesses here, and the daily is you know, it's not 50-50, it's 65-35, isn't it? So 65-35 for the chance of a bounce, and maybe that bounce can take us to the breakout. Again, traditional markets are going to play a major role in this, as is oil, and as is the Dixie, I suppose. The Dixie does look like it's finding its rejection from here, so we got the bounce on the exact level, and we're getting a pullback on the exact level. So it's all, you know, it's range bound. Everything's range bound. Now, if we do break down today or tomorrow, I wouldn't fancy trading any crypto over the weekend, because I think Bitcoin is going to be moving with association with traditional markets massively, right? So in the absence of those over the weekend, I think we'll be looking at probably a bearish weekend for Bitcoin, really, because the move given to us on traditional markets would be seen as quite an obvious one with further downside to go. And this is why I was talking about the everything crash about a week ago, as we were heading up towards the end of the everything bounce from what I talked about 2 months ago. So we have to think about things in terms of the bigger picture, as well as looking at, you know, cryptos and stuff like that. So we've done really well. You know, we've done really well these last 8 weeks throughout this everything bounce. You know, people were calling for $8,000 Bitcoins or whatever, you know, and stocks to, you know, drop by another 50%. I was like, all of that, it can happen, but you know, at the time I was doing the everything bounce, and people were saying it was going to happen immediately, whereas unfortunately they missed the bottoms, and maybe now they will not be able to position themselves appropriately. This right now is probably a no trade zone for everything. And when it comes to my bots and my bot journey, I've been doing a little bit of spot trading, just tiny little bits, just to move my balance up. It's about 2,500 at the moment, give or take. Started with 1,000. And I'm all in tether, because I'm waiting for the next range. You know, in order to trade bots successfully, you want to be into a different range, and I think Bitcoin is getting ready to decide which range it wants to be in. And I don't mind which range it's in, whether it's a higher range or a lower range. For my bots, I just need a range to be established, and if it's going to give up this range right now, or move up into a higher range, then fine, I will let it do that before I position myself in some more, well, get my bots running again. So today is most likely going to be the day. That will be the clickbait video for you. And the reason I say that is for all the reasons I've explained. It's not clickbait. It's what I think is going to happen, all right? So there you go. Some people find it upsetting that I use clickbait titles. I mean, it could be worse. It could be worse. Maybe I should start doing clickbait titles. At least I can back stuff up with what I'm saying. Anyway, I'm going to leave it with you there, guys. I hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.